Our next speaker is the Climate Change Adaptation and Risk Reduction Advisor of Oxfam in the Philippines. He is a human environmental geographer with extensive experience in climate-related disaster vulnerability assessments and geographic information systems. Let's welcome Luigi Toda.
Hi, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Kung si Senator Gordon po kanina ay binanggit natin as 40 years na po sa industriya, especially sa Philippine Red Cross. Ako po ay 4 months pa lang po sa Oxfam in the Philippines. So, paumanhin niyo po kung medyo baguhan pa lang tayo sa i-discuss natin about climate and disaster financing. But basically, why we chose this topic for this afternoon is because Oxfam in the Philippines has been supporting local government units. Sino po yung mga taga-LGU sa atin dito? Marami po, no? So, di-discuss po natin dito yung iba't ibang challenges or issues po na kinakaharap ng local communities natin, especially the vulnerable local government units when it comes to disaster preparedness, even climate change adaptation. No? Tulad ng sinabi ko kanina, na Oxfam in the Philippines has been here for quite a long time already, 25 years, and we've been helping in terms of humanitarian assistance. Right now in Marawi, we've been helping with different partners to help out in terms of wash services, providing wash services in Marawi. But now, let's try to focus our attention doon po from response, basically, to adaptation. Because we see the importance of adaptation and at the same time, climate and disaster financing para po tayo ay mas makapag-prepare, makapag-adapt, at makapag-respond efficiently and effectively sa climate change risks. No? So first, ano bang ginagawa ng Oxfam sa Pilipinas, no? Our main goal is very kung babanggitin natin, is very universal, no? Miss Universe kung isipin natin. Kasi we really wanted to help out eradicate poverty in the Philippines. But why are we actually targeting climate change adaptation as one way to actually address poverty? Because we see that poverty is one function of vulnerability. And vulnerability, we actually want to address vulnerability at the most, at the 4th to 6th class municipalities. We all know na lahat po tayo ay vulnerable or exposed sa climate change and disaster risks. Pero iba't iba po yung ating capacity, iba't iba po yung vulnerability natin. That's why we need climate disaster financing to actually help us out in preparing and responding to disasters. Ito po ay si Kuya. So we had this project, I think that was after Typhoon Haiyan, hit the municipality of Tanawan in Leyte Province. So siya po ay isang farmer, no? Si Kuya Gistado, na ang kanilang lugar ay used to be a source of income or livelihood, especially in terms of agriculture, rice production, and coconut farming. And then eventually, when when Yolanda hit the municipality of Tanawan, ang nangyari po doon, totally, na-wash out po ang kanilang agricultural areas, basically affecting their livelihoods. It took for them, I think, 5 to 6 months to actually recover. And then wala pa po silang enough sources of income. No? So dito natin nakikita na at the local government unit, yung access natin sa People's Survival Fund, even sa local disaster risk reduction and management fund, may not be enough to actually help our farmers and our families sa ating most vulnerable municipalities and cities. No? So, papasadahan ko lang po yung issues na kinakaharap natin in terms of disaster financing. Kanina, nakausap ko po ang dati kong boss, no? My first boss when I was working in this field, disaster risk management. This is Attorney Violeta Seva. She is still the advisor of Mayor Binay sa City of Makati. So I was really exposed to disaster risk management. And then sinabi niya kanina, tinanong ko kanina, Attorney Seva, ano ba ang pinaka-hurdle or issue na kinakaharap ng Makati City Government, given though it's already a first-class municipality, no? Right now, underutilized pa rin ang kanilang local DRRM fund because first of the procurement process, we know that we have to go to the procurement bidding process. Sobrang hirap po niyan sa LGU, no? Even though we have the technical capacity to itemize, let's say, preparedness, mitigation, response, or rehabilitation activities, pag dumaan po yan sa COA, may problema pa rin. So that means, hindi natin na-utilize na mabuti ang ating financial instruments and financial mechanisms to address climate change and disaster risk. Pangalawa, meron po tayong kakulangan sa institutional mechanism or enabling environment. Right now, I think last 2015, the World Bank and the national government came up with a strategy called the Disaster Risk Financing and Insurance Mechanism. Pero may problema pa rin in terms of how do we actually operationalize this at the national and at the local government levels. So unang-una, I'll focus doon sa National DRRM Fund, no? Sinasabi natin na umaangat yung funding natin for the National DRRM Fund, but eventually we see that yung approval process, no, is very lengthy. Sobrang tagal po ng proseso, na-experience po yan ng mga LGUs at ng mga NGAs, na sobrang tagal po ng proseso para maaprubahan ang ating requests for Quick Response Fund or the entire National DRRM Fund. Pangalawa, meron din kakulangan in terms of doon sa guidelines or criteria para po ma-access natin yung fund or to get approval from the Office of Civil Defense. And that means it would take you months or perhaps even years. Yung Yolanda po, ganun po yung nangyari, no? It even took them months or years to actually use their funds for them to recover and rehabilitate. Especially yung mga public and critical facilities natin, like schools, ano pa ba? Hospitals, and all these critical facilities na kailangan natin during and even prior to disasters. Focus naman po tayo sa local DRRM fund, no? We see that meron ding kakulangan dun sa pagiging standard ng interpretation natin sa fund. Kasi yung iba, sinasabi natin na 30% of the local DRRM fund should go to Quick Response Fund. And then 70% po na yon ay dapat papunta sa pre-disaster activities natin. Nangyari po, hindi pa rin alam ng mga LGUs kung paano gamitin ito. That's why we're having this lack of uniformity in terms of interpretation. Pangalawa, nagiging dependent ang mga LGUs, especially 3rd to 6th class municipalities sa national government. Dependent po tayo sa National DRRM Fund. Why? Because wala po tayong enough fund because 5% ng ating IRA ay supposedly at least mapunta sa DRM fund. Ang problema, hindi po enough yun to actually help LGUs 4 to 6 as municipalities, the most vulnerable ones, to recover from disasters. And lastly, I think there's also a lack of guidelines for emergency procurement. Tulad po ng sinabi ni Attorney Seva sa akin kanina, na procurement guideline in terms of pag-itemize po na ating equipment and facilities, may problema po tayo doon. And then lastly, we have the indemnity, the traditional insurance mechanism that we have provided by GSIS. So ito po yung sinasabi ko kanina na strategy ng national government natin on disaster risk financing and insurance. So at the national level, they wanted to improve the financing of disaster response, recovery, and reconstruction. Ang problema po dito sa sa layering na to ay wala pa pong matinong operational mechanism na pwede pong gamitin ng NGAs at LGUs natin. According po dun sa partner namin na sa Lloyd's reinsurer, it's a reinsurer agency based in London. Sabi po nila, based sa kanilang recent study, that the rate of insurance penetration sa ating bansa remains to be below 2% of our population. And that implies na 1% of our insurance coverage could actually save public spending for rehabilitation and recovery by 22%. Or that means yung tax burden sa ating mga tao could reduce to 22%, all right? So meaning, kapag meron tayong pre-disaster maayos na insurance mechanism, maaari tayong maka-access ng fund from Disaster Risk Financing Initiative and insurance para magamit natin for our LGUs and national government agencies in a way that it's more efficient, in a way that is more effective. At ang problema dito, wala pa po tayong matinong enabling environment to actually disburse the funds. So ano po yung kailangan nating, what kind of financing do we need for our vulnerable municipalities? First is, it has to match the needs of the local communities and the local government units. Pangalawa, it has to be effective, no? Nakakarating ba siya sa ating mga LGUs? Nakakarating ba siya sa ating farmers? Nakakarating ba siya sa iba't ibang sektor na ating lipunan? And lastly, cost-effective ba siya? Or timely ba yung pagdating na ating, let's say, LDRR fund during response and relief phase of disaster? Or during rehabilitation and recovery, enough ba yung funds natin in a timely manner na ibibigay ba natin siya sa mga LGUs? So I'd like to promote this project that we have. So it's quite a new term sa atin, yung climate and disaster financing. Pero we think that it's really important that we have this culture of preparedness in a way that we consider climate and disaster financing in our daily conversations. You know? First, we started this project with UP National College of Public Administration and Governance. It's a 6-month project lang po siya. Basically, we just want to look at the enabling environment, its institutional mechanism, to see how the current insurance models po ay nakakatulong sa ating 4 to 6 class municipalities. Okay? We want to design an insurance model by targeting poor and vulnerable municipalities in Eastern Visayas and Mindanao in terms of recovery and rehabilitation. Pangalawa, we want to help design a revenue system. So we also partnered with GSIS, no? Help them out in terms of developing an insurance model para mas matulungan natin yung mga municipalities na yon, especially yung kanilang mga critical facilities ay ma-address agad, no? Mabigyan natin sila ng funding using different parameters. Let's say, ang parameter po natin sa typhoon, pag na-achieve na ba niya ang 280 kph, magbibigay na po ba tayo ng full payout sa isang LGU? So yun po yung plano namin gawin at hopefully ay ma-roll out po namin yung result ng project at matulungan po natin ang LGU natin in the next couple of months. So yun lang po at maraming salamat sa pakikinig.